Do-Rag Wisdom, folks, and welcome to Y2K 18.04.16 with 204 days until the midterm elections. Infecting our children and the consequences thereof. I firmly believe that most of us today do not learn from our mistakes. That we as a species is cursed with the insanity of doing the same thing over and over and expecting the same results. Life, they say, is hard, but does it have to be impossible? Does it have to be governed by the criminally insane and their rich friends? I am thinking now of the children of Newtown and the children of Parkland, and I am thinking of so many violent events before and in between, including having an entire generation grow up with the memory of 2 burning buildings and a bomb Pentagon. I am then continuously outraged by our infecting each generation, not curing, but infecting each generation with our greed, with our fears, with our hatreds, with our acceptance of the insane way of living and of growing old in humiliation, and then with our insane way of death. I'm sorry to see how we infect our children from one generation to the next without realizing the consequences this has towards stunting our evolutionary growth as a species. Someone many people despise said that we are a village. If one really meant if one really meant those words and took them to heart, if one really has tapped into the best of our natures, then it would behoove us to put that into practice. That would be a sane thing to do. But sadly, as far as I can see, and at the latter stages of my 60s, humanity is just as selfish, just as hateful, just as destructive as I've always remembered it. We have always been at each other's throats while constantly struggling to survive, to fend off death itself with money and with power we think that money brings. For as long as you have that money in this hell of our own making, you can shut on and shut off your connection with other humans at your will like a light switch. And we are passing this infection on to the younger generations, and we could give a shit about the consequences, because for many of us, the cruel effects of our policies now and how they will negatively affect the future have no relevance, because we will be dead anyway. So what difference does it make, right? It's a long way off. Well, if our grandchildren, great-grandchildren and beyond are living with superstorms, political and natural, with worse terrorism, and with the same mundane indignities of daily life that we now experience, if there is an afterlife, which there isn't, ours, that generation of ours, should receive some bitter, bloody stripes for our negligence. Children should not have to worry about being shot up in their schools. Children should not have to figure out why a world they did not make is so fucked up. Children should not have to grow up dealing with cruelty, especially if that cruelty is generated, as it now is, by the traitor of our United States, Trump. We know that life is a challenge, with obstacles to be negotiated. But it is not supposed to be insanely impossible at our children's expense. I love that young people are standing up in the wake of the Parkland shootings. But just think for a moment. Wouldn't these children young people rather be enjoying their youth while they briefly have it, having fun, continually discovering their new and growing world, but instead they must deal with adult-created carnage and take away time from their precious youth, protesting our negligence and becoming the true adults in the room while the real ones have fled. It is sad that these young people have had to deal with 9/11, with terrorism, both domestic and international, with racist hatred, with the growing environmental catastrophe, and with the threat of totalitarianism, as close as Washington, D.C. It is sad that they must deal with all of our crap while they have to still try to grow up. A difficult task in itself, let me tell you. Have you all forgotten? We adults have made the job of the children, their job of growing up, more difficult by always encouraging the worst in our society. Look what's in the White House now. If we encourage the best, everyone would know, rich and poor, to always share one's wealth for the betterment of all. We live on a tiny planet that can be crushed by the vast universe we barely inhabit. There is a creep in our White House who probably never looked up at a starlit sky and really understood his place within the vast scheme of things. For the sake of our children, we need to cleanse ourselves of our insanity now. Millennials, post-millennials, sadly, you folks have already been traumatized and contaminated by our naked apeism. But take heart. You can learn from our tragic mistakes. Maybe then we can evolve. If only we could turn off all the lights once in a while so we can look up at a starlit sky and understand our true place within that vast scheme. If you want the best for your children, demand the best from those who run things at the very least. They must be impeccable in their behavior especially. Right now, those in charge of our country are dragging it through a fecal and piss-filled sewer. Our children deserve better. The greatest crime my generation committed was allowing traitor Donald Trump to gain the position he has. He is going to set progress back decades, including forcing our young people to grow up with the worst right-wing extremist judges he can find. This is a president who supports child molesters for Congress, who supports using our taxes and our government for his own benefit, who will poison our planet and our children for generations to come. This creep is a bully and a sex assaulter, a traitor in human clothing. After this traitor creep is purged from our lives, and I should say he's a treep and a creep, we the adults, the so-called grown-ups, have a lot to answer for. But we can never be forgiven for the epic child abuse we've been perpetrating since the dawn of our existence, for robbing children too damn early of their innocence. Mommy, Daddy, why did those ladies pee on the bed in front of the president? Mommy, Daddy, what is an affair? Mommy, Daddy, What is poison gas? Mommy, Daddy, why are we supposed to hate other people? Why do we need a wall? Why do we need assault weapons? Mom, Dad, why do we always have to take our shoes off in the airport? Mom, Dad, why are there so many dumb commercials on the television? Mom, Dad, why does the president look like a clown, but isn't nice like one?